So, I hope this isn't too far afield, but I've noticed in my life a lot the relationship between energy, vital energy, joy, depression, engagement. I always thought of the body, like you notice that you're tired a day before you get sick, and then you go, oh, aha, that's why. But then there's times like where there's great music, and you can dance for 4 hours straight and just effortlessly. And so it's obviously the energy doesn't just come from the body; it comes from someplace else. But so, what is that correlation? I mean, is it that the energy from the spirit, when properly channeled, energizes the body, and if the body is going down, it somehow kind of disperses the spirit energy or something?
What a great question. I don't know if it's the chicken or the egg. But I do know that if the body is purified, there's a good chance that the soul's energy can function in a clear direction. The problem with what I just said is that word purified. There are some people, for example, who eat an incredibly pure diet, who do 4 hours of hatha yoga a day, and they do everything right for the body, but they're lacking balance because they're doing everything right for the body. And so the energy can't come through if there's no balance. The deeper answer is the relationship of the breath with the body and the unseen. Because, and I know I've said this a number of times, but it's very important, our physical nervous system is 50% of our nervous system. There is a corresponding non-physical nervous system. When both of those are in harmony, the body stays reasonably healthy. Now, I mean, I hate to say this, but as you get older, the body gets weaker. And so then you have to adjust the relationship of those two, physical and non-physical nervous system, and train yourself to draw more from the non-physical. And it's training. It's really working to keep things, to experience a different balance. But if the breath isn't working properly, the psychic as well as the physical, it's very difficult to stay energized. Subhana, you were next.
So I guess I have sort of a question in what I heard. The thing that really struck me was that sense of the excess of energy coming out of the soul, and then I think you said something electrical current. And what you just said a little bit ago was that we need to increase our capacity. So is that about increasing our capacity to both physically contain electrical current and have the strength to deal with the many different manifestations of the soul energy, that the force that could go in multiple directions?
Yes, it is clear, and I think the answer is absolutely that we do need to increase our capacity. And interestingly enough, people don't like to hear this, and again, this is for you, Lee. The rest of us, it doesn't matter. The thing, seriously, the thing that increases capacity is our ability to feel. Not our ability to know, but our ability to feel and really feel. As we feel deeper, our capacity to be a better channel for the soul increases. But again, if it's not done in a balanced way, we create depression. Because we are so close and yet simultaneously so far from our natural state. So it's not increasing the capacity by tripling the wires so to speak. Getting a bigger cable. It's increasing the capacity by feeling deeper. Hence, zikr, or any practice that quickens the heart. If you don't bring feeling into this reading, it's very easy to misinterpret. And then we start making excuses, and then Tajali, your question becomes very relevant. But if you have the courage, it takes courage to feel deeper in yourself, about others, then your capacity seems to naturally increase, and the risk of imbalance decreases. A lot of people experience imbalance of the mind because of a fear of feeling. So as we develop the ability to feel, and it's an ability, we have to train ourselves. We've been trained our whole life to not feel. Or to feel the surface and think that's feeling. That's why we're so easily manipulated by commercials, because they just know how to touch the surface. So I'm opening my ad agency next week. I hope you don't mind. Seriously, we've got to go to deeper feeling. Then the animal ego diminishes. It's easier to train a dog than a lion. Doesn't mean the lion can't be trained, but start with dogs. Really. Who is next?
I think a good image for this is when you think about where there's a fire that's smoky, it's not burning hot enough. It's not getting enough oxygen. Maybe the wood's too damp. It's not balanced, and that's why you've got the smoke. But when there's enough fire, then that's what you're talking about feeling.
That's a wonderful simile, metaphor. That's really true. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is in spiritual groups, there's this tendency to overlook the necessity for really deep feeling. And it's not just being empathic with others or with yourself. It's being empathic with God, to feel the sense of God.
Or confusing feeling with sentimentality.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying. That surface level is so dangerous. It starts wars, it does all kinds of stuff. The surface level of sentimentality. You did this to me, well, I'm going to do this to you. That's sentimental. I mean, I could say it in simpler ways or more loving ways. But basically, it's still the level of the animal ego responding. And the animal ego is not particularly wise. It's just not.
So deep feeling at the level that we've just been talking about would lead to this toward the one focus, and therefore channel, so one is not flitting about from one thing to the next. Is that indication?
The nice thing about doing the teaching that I've done for so many decades is there are certain examples that really work. So here's the example in answer to your question. You're 16 years old. You fall in love for the first time. You're really in love with this guy. Do you care about other guys? Do you even notice other guys, really? No. Do you care what your parents say? No. Do you care the effect of this thing? No. Do you care about anything but this guy? No. That's being really directive. And what's directing you? My feeling. You can say your hormones too if you're 16, but let's keep it on a different level. You're feeling love. And it's not parental love. It's a different kind of love. And it awakens something in us. And you always hear this story about the sweet boy or sweet girl who falls in love with the wrong kind, and then they go out and they do God knows what, and everybody says, but they were so nice. They had just never felt that before. It's a whole new feeling. And that's why, Jesus said, unless you be born again. It's not about what we see in the TV. Unless you are born to a really new way of feeling, a deep way of feeling, it's very difficult to channel the energy of the soul. And just to create a little more problems, this is why hallucinogens are so popular. And they never quite died out. The reason they're so popular is because they allow a new level of feeling. It's not the best and it's not the only, and there's plenty of drawbacks, and I don't have to go into that now. But there is major research being done by NYU, UCLA, and who's the leader in it? Johns Hopkins, 3 very prestigious universities, in bringing back the use of hallucinogens in healing elderly people who are dying and suffering anxiety. And they give them the hallucinogen, and elderly people have a sense of the unity of life, and their death experience is completely different. I didn't make this up. You can look it up. It's quite available. These are 3 really prestigious universities who've done this research. And they don't know what to do. They can't classify it anymore as a dangerous drug. The results are quite clear. Why? Because they're taking people who are going into death without feeling, and they're giving them a feeling. What's the feeling from a good psychedelic? The unity of life. It doesn't last, and that's a downside. I don't mean that it doesn't last for dying people. I mean for us, it doesn't last. We know it's a drug. Our mind says it's a drug, and we put a ceiling on it. But some sense of it lasts, sure. Sure.
Well, and it's the same with Zikr, and it's the same with, it keeps making that impression deeper and deeper.
Yes. She said it's the same with Zikr, which is a very good comment. Any spiritual practice makes the impression deeper, the channel gets wider and wider, and you start feeling. And that's why some people run away from spiritual path, because they start feeling. Yes. Balance. Once again, we go back to balance. Whether it's a substance, controlled or otherwise, or a practice or anything, always back to balance.
Well, you've said this so many times, that.
Yes. Yes.
Just leads to more confusion.
Yes. If you forgive me, not about what you said, but it triggered something in me. We should be aware that the conversation this morning is a mature conversation. This is what a mature conversation sounds like, because we are pulling, from our higher sense, from our intelligence, and we're really grasping to understand life and ourself and our ego. And people are listening to each other. Not as soon as somebody says a black, we say white, which is how most people have conversations. And then you don't hear anything. Hang on. If you give me permission, and I really mean it, I'll read the second paragraph. The whole paper is this long.